5 wild dogs had already closed in, forming a tight circle around the trembling elephant calf. He could barely stand, spinning in panic, his tiny cries echoing across the empty plains, but no mother answered. The alpha male with the torn ear suddenly lunged forward, his jaws snapping shut just inches from the calf's tiny feet. The terrified baby stumbled backward and crashed into one of the wild dogs, which immediately clamped onto its small trunk. Rafael slammed his foot on the accelerator. The Jeep tore through the thorn bushes, branches snapping loudly beneath the bumper. The clearing was only moments away when he spotted a third dog sprinting in from the side, eyes locked on the calf's hind legs. Their tactic was obvious: cripple the calf first, and then finish the kill. Rafael burst into the open clearing at full speed, letting go of the steering wheel as he grabbed his shotgun. He fired a warning shot into the sky. The explosion cracked across the empty plains and the wild dogs flinched for a moment. But they weren't done. They hovered only 20 paces away, exchanging low growls as they prepared to charge again. Rafael jumped out of the Jeep, pulled out his flare gun, and fired a round directly in front of the alpha's paws. The flare erupted in a flash of red light with a deafening blast, and for the first time the tight circle of attackers faltered. The alpha with the torn ear released a harsh growl, and the rest of the pack obeyed, retreating into the tall grass. But Rafael knew this wasn't a true retreat. They always came back. In the center of the clearing, the elephant calf stood shaking, its tiny body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Blood dripped from its wounded tail, though the injury was shallow, little more than a scratch on its thin, delicate skin. Rafael stepped cautiously toward the trembling calf, keeping his hands visible and his movements slow. The little elephant let out a shaky, helpless rumble and took a few hesitant steps toward him, pressing its tiny forehead against his leg, as if he were the only safe thing left in the world. There was no sign of the herd, no silhouettes on the horizon, no distant calls, nothing. A calf this young never wandered on its own. Its mother had to be close, and something must have torn them apart. Leaving the little elephant here was not an option. The wild dogs would return the moment Rafael turned his back. He placed a hand gently on the calf's head and whispered, "It's okay. I'm not leaving you." He scanned the ground for tracks, deep impressions left by heavy feet, broken stems, and scattered dung. A faint trail appeared near the edge of the clearing, leading westward. Rafael began to follow it, and the calf trotted after him on unsteady legs, determined not to lose him the way it had lost its mother. As they moved through the golden grass, new signs appeared. Freshly snapped branches, moist droppings untouched by insects, soil still soft from recent steps. The herd had passed here not long ago, less than an hour, maybe even less. Rafael quickened his pace, and the calf struggled to keep up, but refused to fall behind. Every few steps it brushed against his leg with its trunk, seeking reassurance, and Rafael could feel the urgency in its trembling body. After nearly 20 minutes of tracking, Rafael and the calf reached a shallow dip in the land where the earth turned pale and cracked. A wide, dry riverbed stretched before them. On the far side, a massive herd of buffalo grazed silently, 30, maybe more, their dark, hulking bodies forming a living wall across the landscape. Several dominant buffalo bulls stood at the front, their curved horns glinting in the sun, their broad chests rising and falling with slow, controlled breaths. Buffalo were notoriously unpredictable, territorial, powerful, capable of charging without warning. And Rafael realized with a sinking feeling that the elephant trail led straight through them. The closest buffalo bull lifted its head and stared directly at them, its nostrils flaring, dust swirling around its hooves. The calf pressed its small body against Rafael's leg, emitting a soft, frightened squeak. Rafael knew the rules: no sudden movements, no loud sounds, no direct eye contact. He placed a steadying hand on the calf's back and began to inch sideways, one slow step at a time. The nearest buffalo snorted, scraping the ground with its hoof, its tail flicking in irritation. The calf flinched and tried to bolt. Rafael caught it gently by the trunk and whispered, "Easy. Stay with me. Just a little more." Another buffalo bull joined the first, both watching the pair with unwavering intensity. For several long, breathless minutes, Rafael guided the calf in a wide arc, curving around the edge of the herd through knee-high grass. The buffalo gradually lost interest, lowering their heads again to graze. When they finally reached the far side of the riverbed, Rafael let out a long, quiet breath. The worst, so far, was behind them. The elephant trail continued beyond a cluster of thorn trees, leading toward the distant hills where massive baobabs grew like ancient guardians. Rafael pressed on, and the calf followed closely, its tiny footsteps matching his with desperate determination. The sun had begun its slow climb toward the center of the sky when Rafael finally heard it, a deep, resonant rumble drifting through the trees ahead. The sound of elephants. The calf perked up instantly, its ears spreading wide, a hopeful squeal bursting from its throat as it hurried forward. Rafael followed close behind, pushing past a cluster of thorny bushes. Then the herd appeared. 7 adult females and several calves, their massive shapes emerging from behind a grove of ancient baobabs. The lost calf let out a high, joyous trumpet and charged toward them with all the strength its tiny legs could muster. But something was wrong. The nearest female elephant froze, her ears flaring, her trunk curling in warning. A low, thunderous rumble vibrated through the air. The calf skidded to a stop. It blinked, confused, trembling as the second female stamped her foot, and a third swung her trunk sharply through the air. They weren't welcoming him. They were rejecting him. Rafael rushed forward, calling out softly, "Hey, hey, easy, easy!" He reached the calf just as one of the females surged forward, her massive form slicing through the tall grass like a charging boulder. Hot air blasted past Rafael's face as her tusks cut through the space where he had been moments before. He grabbed the calf's trunk and pulled it back, retreating step by step until they reached a safe distance. The calf whimpered, a tiny, broken sound. It didn't understand why the herd it thought was its family had turned on it. Rafael's stomach sank. This wasn't its herd at all. Somewhere out there, beyond the hills and the endless plains, its real mother was still missing, still searching, still vulnerable. They had followed the wrong trail. Rafael turned the calf around and began leading it back toward the fork in the trail. The air felt heavier now, the silence unsettling. Too still for the open plains. As they climbed a low rise, Rafael paused. Something moved on the distant ridge. 3 dark shapes crouched low against the horizon, their ears pricked forward, their bodies motionless except for the twitching of their tails. The wild dogs. They had found them again. The alpha with the torn ear stood at the center, his eyes locked on Rafael and the calf with a cold, calculating hunger. He wasn't rushing this time. He was waiting for the right moment, waiting for them to make a mistake. Rafael felt the calf press desperately against his side, its tiny trunk wrapping weakly around his arm. He whispered, "I know. I see them. Just stay close." They hurried back to the fork where 2 faint trails split in opposite directions. The first trail, the one they had mistakenly followed, was still clear, but the second was barely visible, a sequence of lighter impressions, smaller and more uneven, as if made by an elephant walking alone, and in pain. Rafael knelt and touched the ground. The prints were fresh, very fresh. And there was something else, a smear of dried mud mixed with a darker stain. Blood. The calf suddenly sniffed the air, lifting its trunk, letting out a soft, urgent chirp. Then it bolted forward down the faint trail, its small legs moving faster than Rafael had ever seen. "Hey, slow down," Rafael called, scrambling after it. But the calf didn't slow. It knew this scent. It recognized it. It belonged to its mother. They ran through the tall grass, the trail weaving between scattered acacia trees. The sun dipped slightly westward, casting long shadows across the land as the calf led the way with desperate determination. Finally, the grass opened into a small clearing at the foot of a rocky hill. And there, beneath the wide canopy of a lone acacia tree, lay a massive, unmoving shape. The mother elephant, collapsed on her side, silent, still. Rafael slowed as he approached the fallen elephant, his breath caught somewhere between fear and hope. The calf, however, didn't hesitate for a second. With a piercing cry, it rushed to its mother's side, nudging her cheek with its tiny trunk, pushing, pulling, desperate for her to move. But the mother didn't respond. Not a flick of an ear, not a breath strong enough to lift the dust on the ground. Rafael dropped to his knees beside her massive head and pressed his palm gently against her throat, feeling for movement, any sign of life. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, faintly, barely there, a slow, shallow rise beneath the skin. She was alive, but only just. The calf let out a trembling rumble, circling its mother's head, nudging her again and again, as if trying to remind her that he was here, that he hadn't given up on her. Rafael noticed the problem immediately. On her front right leg, just above the joint, a swollen mass bulged beneath the skin, an abscess the size of a football, tight, discolored, throbbing with infection. No wonder she had collapsed. No wonder she couldn't keep up with her herd. Every step must have felt like walking on fire. Rafael felt a wave of urgency surge through his chest. There was no time to waste. If the infection spread deeper, she wouldn't survive the night. He grabbed his radio and pressed the button with shaking fingers. "Samora! Nyla! This is Rafael. I've found the mother. She's down and in critical condition. Severe abscess on the right foreleg. I need the medical unit here immediately. Sending coordinates now. Hurry!" Static crackled for a moment before a voice answered. "Copy that, Rafael. We're on our way. Hold tight." Rafael lowered the radio and looked at the calf, which had curled itself against its mother's cheek as if trying to shield her from the world. A quiet, quivering sound escaped its throat, half plea, half heartbreak. Rafael placed a hand on the calf's back. "Don't worry," he whispered. "They're coming. We'll help her." Rafael stood guard over the fallen elephant, the calf pressed tightly against its mother's face, when the distant hum of an engine finally reached his ears. A cloud of dust rose on the horizon. Moments later, a white medical truck bounced across the uneven ground, its tires kicking up gravel as it sped toward them. Dr. Samora and Dr. Nyla jumped out before the engine had even stopped, both carrying heavy cases marked with red crosses. "How long has she been like this?" Samora asked, kneeling beside the injured leg. Rafael exhaled shakily. "Long enough. She's breathing, but barely. And the abscess on the right foreleg, it's bad. Really bad." Nyla moved to the elephant's head, resting her hand gently against the massive skull. Her breathing was shallow and uneven, each exhale weaker than the one before. "We need to stabilize her first," Nyla murmured. "If she crashes during the procedure, we'll lose her." Samora nodded, preparing a syringe. He inserted it carefully behind the elephant's ear, the thinnest patch of skin for the fastest absorption. "A mild sedative," he explained, "just enough to ease the pain and keep her calm, but not enough to bring her down. She needs to stay standing for the drainage." The calf panicked the moment the needle touched its mother. It let out a sharp trumpet and tried to shove Samora away with its tiny trunk. Rafael intercepted it, wrapping his arms around the trembling calf. Hey, it's okay. They're helping her. She needs this. Stay with me. Stay with me." Minutes passed. Slowly, painfully slowly. The mother elephant's eyes fluttered, and her muscles tightened as she struggled to rise. She pushed herself upright, first shifting weight to her hind legs, then lifting her front half with a low, aching groan. She stood. Barely, but she stood. Nyla and Samora shared a quick, determined look. "This is our window," Samora said. He sterilized the swollen area carefully and made a precise incision to begin draining the infection, moving slowly, methodically, with practiced hands. The calf shrieked again, thinking her mother was being harmed, and Rafael tightened his grip gently. "Easy, easy. I know it looks scary. Just hold on." The procedure continued with patience and precision. Samora cleared the damaged tissue, and Nyla flushed the area thoroughly with antiseptic until the infection site finally began to look clean. For the first time, hope flickered inside Rafael's chest. They were saving her, and the calf, watching with wide, trembling eyes, seemed to understand. This wasn't harm. This was healing. The last of the infected tissue was removed, and the foul-smelling fluid finally slowed to a stop. Samora inserted a rubber drain into the cavity, securing it carefully so the wound could continue to clear on its own. Nyla administered a final injection, antibiotics and anti-inflammatory medicine, the mixture strong enough to combat the infection but gentle enough for an elephant's massive system. When they stepped back, both veterinarians were dripping with sweat, their gloves smeared with dust and antiseptic, but their eyes held the same exhausted relief. "She's going to make it," Samora said softly. "We caught it just in time. A few more days and the infection would have reached her bloodstream. She wouldn't have survived." Rafael exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The calf, still pressed beside him, lifted its head slowly, as if it understood the meaning behind the calm voices. Minutes passed in heavy silence as the sedative began to fade. The mother elephant's breathing deepened, her ears twitching slightly as awareness slowly returned. Then she opened her eyes. Not fully, just enough to see the world again. The calf froze, watching her with wide, trembling eyes. Then, with a sudden burst of joy, it let out a high trumpet and rushed to her side, nudging her cheek with desperate affection. The mother lifted her trunk, weakly, shakily, and wrapped it gently around the calf's body, pulling it close in a tired but unmistakable embrace. It was the first time Rafael had seen the calf truly relax. The two stood like that for several long, quiet moments. Mother and child, reunited not by chance, but by the stubborn, unwavering hope that had carried them both through the plains. Nyla wiped her forehead and whispered, "Look at them. You gave them that moment, Rafael." He didn't answer. He just watched. His chest tight, his heart full, the weight of the day finally settling into something warm and steady inside him. For the next several days, Rafael returned to the clearing every morning, carrying supplies slung over his shoulder. The mother elephant remained weak but stable, her breathing stronger each time he visited, the swelling around her leg gradually shrinking. Each day, the calf recognized the rumble of Rafael's jeep long before it arrived. It would race across the grass, trunk lifted high, meeting him halfway with excited chirps that echoed through the still air. Rafael would laugh softly, kneel, and run a hand along the calf's warm forehead before checking the drain, cleaning the wound, and giving the mother her next round of injections. Samora and Nyla joined him every few days, monitoring her progress with cautious optimism. The abscess healed faster than they expected, the infection retreating under the steady rhythm of antibiotics and time. After 2 weeks, the mother elephant no longer leaned heavily on her injured leg. She was walking, slowly at first, then with growing confidence, her massive form steady once more beneath the vast African sky. The calf never left her side, not for a moment. One morning, as Rafael finished his routine check, a distant rumble drifted across the plains, faint at first, then stronger, deeper, unmistakable. Elephants, a herd, her herd. The mother lifted her head, her ears spreading wide, her trunk curling into the air as she answered with a long, rolling call. The calf echoed her, bouncing in excitement, its tiny tail flicking wildly behind it. From beyond the low ridge, silhouettes began to appear, A line of elephants moving in perfect rhythm, their massive bodies shimmering in the golden morning light. As they approached, the mother stepped forward, her gait slow but steady. The calf pressed against her leg, matching her step for step, as if afraid she would disappear again if it blinked. The leading female of the herd paused upon seeing them, then released a soft, resonant rumble, a sound of recognition, of welcome. The herd closed in around them, and for the first time since Rafael found the calf alone in the clearing, the tiny elephant stood not trembling, not searching, but home. Before following her family, the calf turned and trotted back to Rafael, wrapping its small trunk around his hand in a gentle, lingering farewell. Rafael smiled, brushing the calf's cheek. "Go on," he whispered. "She needs you. And you. You're ready now." With one final glance, the calf hurried after its mother, their silhouettes merging with the herd as they moved across the plains, slowly fading into the warm, golden haze of the savannah. Rafael watched them until the last shape disappeared beyond the ridge. A mother restored, a calf saved, and a silent promise carried on the wind that some stories, even in the wild, are meant to have gentle endings.